Hello and welcome to Comics Corner with me, your host, Connor Nolan. Over the course of each episode, I'm going to break down a comic book story and discuss its main character's plot, talk a little bit about the fan reception, give it my own personal rating, and also where you can find the comic book. Now, sit back, relax, and get ready to learn about comics. Hello and welcome back, everybody, and have I got a show for you today. Now, I know I've been doing Elseworlds stories a little often, and don't worry, this is the last one for a while, I promise. Okay, well, probably. But anyway, I have a question for you. Have you ever wondered what would it be like if Superman was Batman? Well, today have I an answer for you in Superman Speeding Bullets from, you guessed it, DC Comics, published in 1993, written by J. M. DeMatteis, with art by Eduardo Barreto. It is the ultimate combination of Superman and Batman mixed into one. So, let's get into the main three characters that I want to talk about. In case you didn't get this, it is both a Superman and a Batman book. So, we have Bruce Wayne, who is also Batman, but then becomes Superman, but is still Superman the entire time, but is Batman for the most of it. It's a little confusing when you say it out loud, but once we get into the story, it'll make a whole lot of sense. So, in this universe, he is the adopted son of Thomas and Martha Wayne. He's got supreme strength, speed, stamina, agility, durability, senses, and longevity. He's also got heat vision, electromagnetic spectrum vision, microscopic vision, X-ray vision, telescopic vision, infrared vision, super breath, freeze breath, wind breath, invulnerability, accelerated healing, and flight. Ooh, that is a mouthful. Okay, the second major character I want to talk about is Lois Lane, the award-winning journalist who, in this universe, works for the Gotham Gazette. And then we have our villain of the story, Lex Luthor, who is the wealthy billionaire philanthropist person who was exposed to a deadly batch of chemicals. Do with this what you will until we get into the story, which we're going to come up to right now. Alright, everybody, this is the part of the show when we get into the meat and potatoes of the story, and that would be the plot. But before we get into this, I just want to say, if you have never seen the cover to this book, you're doing yourself a disservice. You cannot call yourself someone interested in comic books if you have not seen this cover. It is so reminiscent of early Superman stuff, but it's in a Batman suit, and it's just so freaking cool. Okay, now that I'm done nerding out over the cover, let's get into the actual story. So, we open up, and we open as most one-shot Superman stories do, with the explosion of Krypton. And we get this little narrative, and we see Superman's rocket flying through space and crashing, and we're just getting this whole narrative this entire time, and you're kind of like, what's happening? And we see someone walk up to the spaceship, and it's a man in a hat, and he's like, doesn't know what it is, and then he finds the baby in it, and then who appears to be his wife, we learn out that it is his wife, come and rescue the baby. But it's not the Kents. It's not Jonathan and Martha. It is, in fact, Thomas and Martha Wayne. And Alfred throws in this little comedic line in there. It's really funny. And then we see a couple snapshots of the baby, who is named Bruce, growing up. And we're learning a bunch of things, how he was kind of like kept at Wayne Manor, and his only real friend was Alfred. And, as most Batman books are, we have to see the night that it happened. We see the Waynes come out of Zorro, and they go to Crime Alley. And I'm sorry, but if you live in a city, and there's literally an alley called Crime Alley, and you have money, and you have money that everybody knows about, why Why? I don't understand. I don't understand. Like, I understand why it needs to happen because that's what makes Batman Batman, but why? It just, I, okay, anyway. And we see Joe Chill stop them, steal Martha's pearls. He hits Thomas in the face. Bruce is like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And then he goes bang, bang, kills the parents, and he starts laughing at Bruce. And he's like, don't cry. I hate it when kids cry. I hate it. And he goes bang, bang, and the bullets bounce off of him. This is the first time Bruce has shown powers. And he then just eviscerates Joe Chill with his heat vision. And he doesn't know what's happening, so he's crying. They say that they found Joe Chill the next morning. They found the Waynes at night, and we get this little thing, and this is really interesting because it goes along with the title. The poor kid kept saying the same thing over and over. The bullets, the bullets, the bullets. Which is a little nod to the title, Speeding Bullets, which is a nod to Superman, and it's also a nod to Batman at the same time. And then we get a little bit more narration, and we see that after that night, Bruce Wayne just stayed in Wayne Manor his entire life and grew up and old there. So he didn't go on the same adventure that normal Bruce Wayne goes on. Like, he didn't go around the world and training with all the martial artists and yada yada. He just stayed in there the entire time with Alfred. And they're kind of talking, and we see this thing, and Bruce is freaking out because the only thing that's in the papers are, like, the obituaries, and, like, people keep getting killed. And then we see that Lex Luthor has come to Gotham, and he goes into his study, and it's just filled with all of these news clippings of crimes, horrible, horrible, horrible crimes. And you're like, why does he have this? And he just has a mental breakdown. Like, that's literally the only way I can describe it, is he literally has a mental breakdown. And then he comes out of the study, and it turns out that two hitmen are there to kill him and Alfred, and he sees Joe Chill's face. So he throws a dude literally out of the window, takes a couple bullets, crushes the man's gun, and shoots him with is about to shoot him with his heat vision, and then flips his head so that he sets the fire on fire instead. And he can't stop it. And then he finally remembers what happens to them. And in my opinion, this is really sad, because a big thing that happens with Bruce Wayne in normal continuity is he's so mad that he didn't stop his parents from getting killed. But he was 8 years old, 10 years old, somewhere in that age range, and he literally couldn't have done anything. But this Bruce Wayne could have done something if he would have known that he had powers. And he asks Alfred, what am I? And they take him to the Batcave. Well, what would be the Batcave. And we've got the ship that he came in, and he gets all of these journals, and then his X-ray vision flickers into existence, and he sees the bats. And then he starts flying like the bats. And then we see this man with purple gloves and white skin. And we're like, oh my gosh, purple gloves, white skins, it's the Joker! But we don't get any actual confirmation till a little bit down the line. And the two hitmen are like, Wayne got away, he beat us, and so this man kills the two hitmen and then starts laughing. And then we see the police are fighting off with this guy that's got a giant machine gun on top of a building. We don't really get much of an explanation as to why. It's just he was horribly abused or something and like had a mental breakdown and decided to get a machine gun, went on the roof. Either way, and the student is sitting there, and then we see this beautiful image of the bat signal, except it's not actually the bat signal, it's the moon, and Batman floats down, and I have to say, it is this one-page splash, and it is by far one of the most menacing Batman images that you can see. I'm sorry, I've seen a lot of Batsuits in my day. The Speeding Bullets Batsuit, ooh, that's gotta be at least in my top 10, if not my top 5. And this dude, he opens up with the machine gun, and Batman's just like, Yeah, okay. Bullets bounce off me, man. And he throws a grenade. Batman just takes it and holds it in his hand. And then the guy falls off of the building. And Batman grabs his hand, throws him to the police, and then flies away. And like, I'm sorry, but Batman with Superman's powers and he flying like that's that's cool. I gotta geek out a little bit about it. And then we come to Wayne Tech, which is being bought out by Lex Luthor. Something interesting that they show is Lex Luthor has purple gloves. Do with that what you will. But then Bruce Wayne walks in, and he's like, no, you ain't buying my company. And the lawyers are like, well, you haven't been around, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, yes, I know, but I still own this company. And guess what? You're fired. Peace out. And Luthor, get out of here. And then it turns out that Bruce Wayne owns the Gotham Gazette, which is now being run by Perry White, who in normal universe is running the Daily Planet. And he's got his star reporter, Lois Lane. And Bruce falls in love at first sight. It's very klutzy. And then we see that Lois Lane is walking home, and then Lex Luthor picks her up in a limo. Batman is watching the entire time. It's great because they only show the eyes. They don't ever show the mouth, just the eyes up until this point in time. And Lois and Lex are like talking in the limo, and like he tries to make a move at her, and she just slaps him right across the face, and like, you ever put your hands on me again, I'll do a lot worse than slapping you. I'm like, whoa. And he's like, okay, and he just shoves her out of the limo. And then she's accosted by a bunch of ruffians. And then, surprisingly, boom, Batman comes up out of the ground. And it's on. He's just beating people up. He's shooting people with his heat vision. People go to stab him. Knives are breaking. Hands are breaking. All this stuff. And then he says this thing. I could kill you, One finger right through your head, splattering your brains all over the street. And I'm like, whoa. This Bruce Wayne is friggin' brutal. Like, whoa, you at a 75, man, you need to drop down to like a 0. And she's talking this whole time, and then it turns out you kind of put 2 and 2 together that the narration that's going on the entire time is Lois Lane. And Batman's like, let me help you up. And she's like, nah, get out of here. And so he flies away. And then she's found by the police. She goes to the Daily Planet. Bruce is there. Ooh, Bruce is there. And then they end up kissing. And then a couple weeks pass, and this trench coat, hat wearing man breaks into the Gotham Gazette, moves past everything, and it's Lex Luthor. And then this, I gotta say, props to the guys that did this. Props to you. But this is by far one of the creepiest things I've ever seen. The man rips off his own face. His own face. And it turns out, it was just a mask, but like he rips off his face to reveal that he is the Joker. And then he shoots Bruce out the window, grabs Lois Lane, jumps out the window. It's like, ho ho ho, check out me flying machine. You think Batman's so cool because he can fly around, but guess what? I got a flying machine, boy. I'm like, okay, you're like a 75. Can we drop it down? Like, we get it that you're the Joker, but dang, boy, you need to chill. And they're talking, and she's like trying to get away from him, but she's in the middle of the air, so if she gets away from him, she's gonna splat. But the Joker is there. They land. Batman's like, "What up, fool?" And so they start fighting, and Joker's like, well, you can deal with me, or you can deal with the tanks and the riots and the people that are trying to take over the city. Ha ha ha. And Batman just sees all of this chaos, and he throws the Joker and lets him fall. And Lois says no. And then he swoops down, catches the Joker, drops him off. I'm assuming with the police, they don't really show. Batman takes a tank shell to the chest, blows up the tank with his heat vision, just making work easy peasy lemon squeezy of all these guys. Like, he's ripping up tanks, he's using his freeze breath, all this stuff, and he just takes care of him, no problem. And it is just poetry in motion, seeing Batman use heat vision. Something I do want to point out, this entire story, the Batsuit cowl is a complete face mask, so you don't see his mouth, you just see the white eyes. And Lois kind of puts two and two together and says, your powers can do so much more than what you're doing right now. You can become a symbol of hope. And she takes off his mask to see that he is Bruce. And they fly off into the night. And she's talking, giving a little little outro, and like we get to see Superman, and he's flying closer and closer, and the last page of this entire book is Superman, and it is by far one of the most beautiful and interesting Superman suits I have ever seen in my entire life, because it's got sort of like a Gambit from the 90s cowl, and it's all one piece, and there aren't any trunks, and there isn't a belt, but it works so beautifully. Then we get the end, and I don't know about you, but like Superman, Batman being the same person, Joker and Lex Luthor being the same person, it just blows my mind. This is by far one of the coolest ever Elseworld books, in my opinion. But now we're going to go on to the part of the show where we give the fan reception, where you can buy it, and all those good stuff, including my own personal rating. Okay, everybody, this is the part of the show when I talk about the fan reception, where you can get it right now, and my own personal rating. So, for this fan reception, from what I could find in the research I did, it seemed like people liked it a lot. And you want to know how I know this? It's because in 1993, Superman Speeding Bullets won the Comics Buyer's Guide Fan Award for Favorite Original Novel or Album. So, it won an award, which means it's pretty good, and I mean, like, come on, it's pretty good. So, now we get into the show where I tell you a couple of places you can purchase it. So, first of all, obviously, if your local comic book store has it, you can find it there. But you can also find it in Elseworlds Superman Volume Number 1. You can find it sold separately on Amazon. You can find it on Comixology and DC Universe Infinite. Okay. The drum roll, please. For my personal rating, I'm going to give it an 8. Now I know what you're thinking. Why are you giving it an 8? I really like the story. I really like Superman and Batman. And anytime you kind of smush them into one being, I think that's really cool. But there are a couple things that I'm like, eh. And like, I would have liked to have seen a sequel. And like, the Superman suit is really cool, so I kind of wish we would have seen a little bit more than that. And I also kind of feel like the story was rushed a little bit, but that's understandable when you realize that they only give Elseworld books a certain amount of pages back then. But like, I would have liked to have seen a couple more mashups of characters. Like, don't get me wrong, Lex Luthor as the Joker, that's freaking cool if you ask me. But I would have liked to see a couple more characters smushed together, but you know, it's really cool. I kind of wish we would have seen a Robin. I understand why we didn't see a Robin. I understand. But I still would have liked to see a Robin. So yeah, I give it an 8 overall. Thanks so much for listening to Comics Corner with me, Connor Nolan. If you like what you heard today, why don't you tell your friends about it and share it all around? And if you have any suggestions for what comics should be next on the show, leave a comment down below. And remember, comics are king.